All right, ready?
Ready.
Welcome to the second edition of the Unconsumed podcast. My name is Lee Corning.
I'm Chris Ryder.
And we are here back by popular demand. We had, we started our podcast knowing full well that no one would watch the podcast, which is why we call it the Unconsumed podcast. But then enough people were like, hey, man, this is fun. I don't understand why.
I don't know what's going on. I think, again, people have clicked on the wrong link. Or, my mom watched it 240 times.
Well, unless your mom is renewing her IP address using some kind of VPN or something.
My mom calls me to learn how to plug in her phone. I'm pretty sure she's not renewing her IP address.
So we got a few folks that were interested, which is great. I got a call from my nephew with, hey Johnny, with some topics that we should be discussing.
Oh, hey, already good, because we were out of ideas after one.
Immediate feedback.
So it's great to have ideas flowing in because we were done.
Yeah, because that was all the intellectual horsepower.
That was all of our ideas.
Yeah,
in one 40-minute pass.
So what's funny is that we created a podcast called the Unconsumed Podcast, and then my idea is that all these people are watching it, which goes to show that they just don't know what to watch. So
I agree.
They're looking for something. So our first topic for today is shows that are worth watching.
This is what you should be watching.
Right.
Rather than what you are watching.
Right.
Okay. I like that. It's a good thought. It's a good segue, too.
Yeah. So, what is the show on TV right now that you cannot miss?
Okay. We actually are going to show some stats in a minute on top-rated, top-viewed shows, right?
Do you have those stats?
I thought you showed them. Those top 15.
Well, I just have, overall viewership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite show, the one, and I don't watch a ton of TV. I do have a friend that will watch some shows a couple nights a week. Right. A show that nobody watches, it seems like I keep asking people, is Ray Donovan on Showtime.
Yeah, okay.
With Liev Schreiber, Jon Voight. It is so good.
Okay.
And it doesn't crack the top 10. It doesn't crack the top 15. I don't get it.
So
nobody's watching it. It's really, really good. It's my favorite show on TV right now.
Dexter was on Showtime, right?
And then it moved somewhere, right? Didn't they pick it up somewhere else?
No, the
whole cycle?
The whole thing
I thought it went to another network.
And it was on Showtime, and so Dexter was hugely popular, and that was the show they brought in to be stay with us at Showtime because it's going to be as good or better than Dexter.
Check it out. Jon Voight, who I think, I don't know, hopefully he's not watching this yet. It seemed like he never turned down a role for anything. He would be in a Rugrats movie. He'd be in everything.
Didn't Jon Voight lend his name to the Seinfeld episode where it was Jon Voight's car?
Yeah, and remember that he found the pencil in the glove box
with
and
the
it had
shoe
Jon
marks?
Voight's shoe marks, and he took it to a dentist to try
Speaking
to see.
of, I can't.
By the way, the dentist was Breaking Bad guy.
Yeah, what's his name again?
Walter White.
Well, yeah, I know that. Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
So, John, I don't know what Jon Voight looks like, so I'm just going to pull this up.
You know what he looks like.
Well, I'd probably know him if I saw him.
I think he only has it. I think it's Jon. Yeah, there he is.
Wow, he's changed over the years.
Yeah, he's changed a little. He is really, really good in this. I mean, he's a great actor. He just didn't turn down any work, which I don't know that I blame him for. Anyway, he's great in it. Liev Schreiber's great in it. That's the show I think you're probably not watching, and you probably should.
Okay, interesting. So my show that I think you should be watching, but no one is, and this is maybe starting to show my age a little bit, is there's
700 Club.
No, but you should have watched that 20 years ago.
Okay.
There's a documentary on Netflix called World War II in Color.
Ah.
And it is phenomenal. I couldn't stop watching it. It's I want to say 10 or 12 episodes that are
wow,
maybe 45, 50 minutes each. And they are amazing because that was only 70 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I think all the time about us being in technology. I think a lot about what the future looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And even 10, 15 years ago, we were looking at early stages of internet. We were looking at, we talked about last week about how hard drives have grown astronomically in that time. But then
all the HD that's going. Yeah.
Right. Like they have. I saw an 8K graphics card, which was like I think it was like 30 grand or something.
That's bananas. What are you going to display it on?
Well, I don't know. That's like it's just a futuristic component that you can develop with if you want. But I don't think your eye can even resolve 8K.
Yeah. It can't see that many colors.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of loony.
Somebody will buy it.
You could mine bitcoins with it pretty quick though.
With the 8K monitor?
It's an 8K GPU, which is a graphics card.
We're going to have to do a Bitcoin episode.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Bitcoin novice. You know a little more about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so HD, World War II in color.
Yes. And so it's all of these old, it's all this old footage, but
does it include the Jon Voight footage from the Battle of Midway?
I'm sure it does.
You know, the government sent him out there to basically like record the Battle of Midway, and so he's got all this phenomenal footage. They turned it into some kind of documentary that they showed at the time, but I've actually never watched it. I'm a huge World War II, I don't know, huge, but I do enjoy reading about, you know, that period in that war. I'm just curious if it included something. I got to check that out. I have not seen that.
It's phenomenal. And so the breaking news on all of this is all old footage, obviously.
Yeah.
It's been split up in different places for a long time. But they have, through some miracle of modern technology, have been able to render to color. So it looks like, you ever seen an episode of The Wonder Years where like, they go back and they make it grainy and like there's kind of rudimentary colors?
Right.
It's that, except it's real.
Yeah, they're not faking it.
Which is insane. Have you ever heard? Correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm remembering this incorrectly.
I will.
There are like 3 filmmakers that went to World War II, and then came back, and they were acclaimed for their amazing. And then they started filming like gangster movies and stuff.
Yeah,
like Scorsese.
8 came back, or 6 came back, or 3 came back is what it's called.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So they've got this documentary series. And so that's not what you're talking about, though, right?
No, World War II in color is entirely separate.
So yes, this is a different one, and I think Jon Voight is among them. But I think it's called 6 Came Back or 8 Came Back or whatever number of directors it is came back, and it's it's the footage that they shot while they were over there.
It's called 8 Came Back,
or 6 or 4 or something like that. Type in documentary, and so it's not 8. Maybe it's 6.
All right, we'll try that. Well, this is belaboring our podcast here a little bit, but I do want to know. 8 Came Back. Oh, that seems to be something that Google knows.
Maybe because you just typed it in.
Did I type it all the way in? 5 Came Back.
5 Came Back. There you go.
Okay, and so the idea here is Francis Ford Coppola.
Coppola, come on.
Coppola. Yeah, and so that, I believe, is the guy that filmed a lot of those, like...
Coppola is the director of The Godfather. Come on.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Apocalypse Now.
So there is like World War II ties to like these classic movies, which I think is really cool, and that's why I thought it was worth looking up, because this is something I'd like to see, and it was definitely worth
to see that too.
Watching.
Is that on Netflix?
Look at his popularity's way down. It is. I don't know what the outlet is here for this.
That's all right.
Yeah, we'll check in.
5 Came Back. Check it out.
Yeah, you got Google too. So
if our viewer watches it, let us know what you thought about it.
Yeah, and I also have a Twitter handle. You can. I know that.
Didn't you just down Twitter in our inaugural episode?
Twitter is entirely overrated.
Yeah.
For the reasons I described, which are, they just use it to make everyone look like an idiot.
Right.
But if you have any suggestions for topics we should talk about, or things you'd like us to chit-chat about or look up, Lee Corning, at Lee Corning on Twitter, you can get your input in.
You will not find me on Twitter, so you're going to have to let me know.
I'll check it every once in a while.
Let me know. Okay, so that's a couple of things people aren't watching. What are people watching? Go down the list, and then maybe we talk about a couple that stand out.
Yeah, so this is as of, like, this week, what are the most watched shows? And
this week. So it's like, what's going on right now?
Like from the last episode we did to when we're sitting here now.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Timely. This is the type of stuff you're going to get from us.
Yeah.
Is we're at the pulse of what's going on Okay, go ahead.
Stranger Things.
No doubt. I watched episode 5 last night.
What do you think?
Of season 2. I really enjoyed season 1, but I think it's partly because I didn't have any concept of what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit, I don't want to say bored with season 2, because it's not that bad. I don't want to dog it, but I'm just not feeling it as much.
Right.
There's a lot of fake pop scares. Like,
what's that mean?
So a pop scare is something that jumps out at you, right? So in the movies, somebody comes around a corner and somebody jumps out, that's a pop scare.
Okay.
And, my son is super scared of pop scares.
Okay.
I've scared him more times than I care to admit. I don't feel good about it, but I continue to do it. But this has a lot of, the music builds up, so something's coming. You come in, and they jump around the corner, and, it's the cat.
Right.
There's,
that is a little annoying.
One after the other of those. Do one of those. Just to get me, kind of going.
Right.
But don't do that, 5 times in an episode.
Right, okay.
Because it's like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Now the music's going, I'm just sitting back it's going to be a cat.
Well, do you think that they're setting you up for the time it's not, and then it really stings you?
Yeah, but I need,
It's like play action in a football game.
There's a ratio of fake pop scare to real pop scare, and it's got to be close to 1-to-1. You can't give me, 5 fake pop scares and then a real one.
Well, that wouldn't be 1-to-1 at all then. It would be 1-to-5.
No, 1-to-1 would be, I know, that's what I'm saying. It needs to be closer to 1-to-1. You can't give me 5 fake ones and 1 real one.
Okay.
Because then I don't trust I'm not even invested anymore.
Huh. Yeah, interesting. So I watched it I put it on my calendar, this is the day that Stranger Things 2 comes out. It was I really enjoyed season 1. And I'm not really into that genre.
I'm not either.
So I was watching it and I was like, this is a pretty good show, and I always love the little kids hanging out together and enjoying their childhood and stuff. And then there's some larger plot which invests you as an audience in their little scheme of what's going on. Plus there's some pretty outlying circumstances that are playing into Stranger Things at large, right?
Yes.
So I really enjoyed it because I enjoy some nerdy things. I never played Dungeons & Dragons, but I know about it.
Yeah.
And I've played games.
You wished you had.
Well, I wasn't quite around for that.
You weren't quite cool enough for D&D.
No. We were more like a Lego crew.
You're younger. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I enjoyed Stranger Things 1 a lot, so I was pretty pumped for season 2. And this is not a show where we do spoilers at all.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm not going to give it up as to what happens or anything if you're not finished. But I thought season 1 was much better. But I think it's safe to say there will likely be a season 3.
Ah, okay.
So, like all great shows, they have some setup components for the larger story.
Here's my other... Did I cut you off? Did
No,
you have more to say
go ahead.
about Stranger Things too? The other thing that I found myself, and I said this to my wife the other night, is there's a lot... I agree with you. I like the kids. I like the camaraderie.
Yeah.
All that looks fun. Them on their bikes and their radios and stuff.
We watched The Sandlot for the same thing.
Right.
It's the same quality.
But there's a lot of kids in distress in season 2. Mm-hmm. Will is in it more, right? Because he's back.
Yeah, I guess I don't like that as much.
And 11 seems to be in a lot of distress. And it's so... there's these scenes of these children, horrified and crying. And that kind of, that's hard for me. I don't like watching kids,
you don't want to
suffering.
You don't want to see Benny the Jet Rodriguez get caught by the dog. Right?
Yeah, right. He's got to make it out.
Yeah, he's got to set this new awesome standard for what it means to steal home at the end of the movie.
But
spoiler.
Cool show, great phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I also think they're onto something with that 80s that 80s genre, which hasn't, except for kind of making fun of it, it hasn't really been used that well a whole lot.
Well, you saw there's a show called The Goldbergs.
Yeah, and that's more like making fun of it, right? They're wearing the bright colors and the stupid hair.
That's a funny show. I enjoy that
But
show.
it's a caricature of the 80s.
It is.
Whereas this is more like realistic 80s, I think.
Right.
Aside from, the zombies and the upside down and all that.
Yeah. So the other show that is wildly popular is Game of Thrones. And so the reason, and this is actually number 3 on the list instead of number 2, but I mentioned that because we're talking about setup seasons, is that show can't stop doing setup seasons.
So I'm way behind on Game of Thrones. We started it this year. We're only into season 2. And I was never that fired up about dragon stories, so it's cool. Obviously, it's more than dragon, but I like it. It's not something I have to go see.
And that's a show that's been talked about ad nauseum, so
we'll rehash it.
So on that same token, though, we got another show that's talked about ad nauseum, which is The Walking Dead, which comes in at number 2.
That's number 2 this week.
Right. So what are your thoughts on that show?
I take that back. I watched one episode of the first season.
Was it the first episode?
I think,
seems like if you don't the first episode,
it wasn't the first episode, but I got it. I mean, there's a bunch of zombies, and they come around and they shoot them. To me, it's like this. It's a loophole in ultra violence. Like, we can't show a bunch of people getting killed and massacred, but if they're zombies, then we can show all the gore and killing that we want because they're not real people.
See, I have a different take on that show because I enjoyed that show for 2 seasons. This would have been about last year, and I was like 6 years behind anyways. I don't know exactly what season they're on. But there's like a little bit of like a Lord of the Flies type of feel to it where they're like, they only know how many people are left on Earth, and they're trying to like figure out their roles, and it talks to the hierarchy of human nature a little bit, which I think is interesting. What caused me to stop watching that show is the fact that I felt like I was getting pulled into another loop of the Lost show.
When you were just saying that, that's exactly what I was thinking of. I loved season 1 and 2 of Lost.
Great.
There was enough mystery that you didn't quite know what was going on. They were figuring out the hierarchy of the community. And then it started to get just like, man, now I can picture a group of writers around a table just like thinking of stuff, like, what if we had them, like, oh, these guys aren't really dead, and this guy's not really a human, and like, and that to me, like, I agree. I would have gotten lost with Walking Dead for that.
So I remember I was trading bonds at the time, and I was watching the Lost show, and I was spending ton of hours a week behind a desk, and I would have this show on the side, and like there's enough lulls in the market to be like, so what's going on in Lost? I have up until that point I wasn't good at quitting shows, so I watched all the seasons of that show, and at the very end I was like, I should have stopped after season 2. Because I was like, they're going to tell me this thing, and it's going to make me feel really good about being in there for this whole story. And it never happens.
It never happened, no.
You know what's another show that's not on the list but is also pretty popular in that same way is the Sopranos show. Did you ever see that?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
That show is a little vulgar for my taste, but like that's one of the most talked about endings of a season. Not even a season, end of the series of all time. So, like, do you have any theories on what that is? Because the internet is ripe with them.
My theory is, and if you haven't seen The Sopranos,
just
like,
switch it off.
Yeah. Although by this point you're not going to watch it. Let's be honest. I think that we got killed as the audience.
That's what I think too.
They
like
set up
too much.
Yeah, they set up early in that season. Where his brother-in-law, the big guy, said, I think when you die, it just goes black. And that's all you see. So then in the last episode, we're all sitting around the table, and, the guy's in the bathroom or whatever, somebody comes out, and then it's just black. And you don't see anything for, 30 seconds until the credits start. So I think we got bumped.
Okay. So that's what makes me think that's funny is that if you died and then it just goes black and then the credits start rolling, which is really funny because it's like, okay, you're dead. It doesn't really go black. Then you get to know everything. You get to know who is behind all this.
It would be great if, like, at the end of our lives, we got, like, a credit scroll. That would be pretty good. Like, with the soundtrack at the bottom, like, all the songs.
This guy wrote the track. This guy played the guitar. Here was the stuntman.
You know what? I'm going to, if I get the chance to know I'm going to die, I'm going to prepare a credit scroll for my funeral at the end to just, I think it'd be a good way to walk out of the, the funeral and be like, oh, okay, like you do at the end of a movie. I'm going to work on that.
So, like, Mom, thanks for... Mom with the bringing me into the planet kind of setup.
Mom herself, Dad himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
First grade teacher. Thanks for the
Yeah.
lesson on math.
Okay. I got a good idea. Thanks. All right. So what else are people watching?
Well, here's one that's the next one's on the list, and I don't know much about these. Are Mindhunter, The Flash.
I just started watching Mindhunter. Mm-hmm. It's on Netflix.
Is it good?
It is. I love the concept. It's the story of the FBI when they started to use psychology to try to profile specifically serial killers.
Right.
So they had never really profiled them before, and they locked them up and had no concept of, why are they doing what they're doing, so that we can try to find new people. So I like the idea of it. I'm about halfway through that season. It's pretty good. It's not superb, but I'm expecting a second half of the season like, ooh, that's really good.
Okay.
So if I don't get it, I'm going to be a little disappointed.
Okay, so makers of Mindhunter, Chris is expecting a Flash.
Come on.
And it's time.
Give me something good.
Okay. And then the show The Flash. Have you seen that?
No.
So I'm out on like the superhero movies. Unless it's like those Batman movies for a while were pretty good, but then I feel like they've just done it too much.
I watch them all because I have a 9-year-old and...
So you into it?
Somewhat. I actually don't mind them. I know what they're popcorn movies, but I don't watch any of the TV shows like The Flash or Green Arrow, or there's a new X-Men one, The Gifted. I think I'm not going to watch any of that.
Yeah, I'm just never really got into that. In my opinion, the greatest superhero is Rocky Balboa. You heard it here first. No superpowers, embodies the Judeo-Christian ethic. Like, that's all you need.
That's what you take from that?
Oh, yeah.
So,
no special talent. You're just one of someone that's out there, and you kind of struggle your way to the top. It's an American story.
No, right. For sure. I don't know where Rocky 5 fits into that, but...
well, just like in American stories, guys figure out that they can make a few bucks by making another movie.
Yeah, that's true.
And then they do it.
That's the real
just like
American
the guys
story.
that are in Lost.
The Hollywood story.
Yeah.
There is a movie that came out recently with Liev Schreiber where he plays a guy named Chuck, I want to say Wapner, but for some reason I'm thinking
Isn't that from Rain Man?
No, I don't think so. Maybe I'm getting it wrong.
Chuck Wapner, up on 4.
This
Judge
is the
Wapner.
guy that Sylvester Stallone modeled the Rocky...
Chuck Wepner.
Wepner, thank you. Modeled the Rocky character after.
Right.
And he plays that guy's story.
Yeah.
And I saw him, do an interview about it. It looked really interesting.
Yeah.
Especially like the time he met Sylvester Stallone for the first time.
Yeah, they apparently settled for an undisputed amount. Chuck Wepner's nickname is not the Italian Stallion, the Bayonne Bleeder. Isn't that the worst nickname of all time?
Because he was known to bleed a lot in the ring?
Well, yeah, he was like, you ever watch UFC and like Nate Diaz is bleeding in the first 5 seconds of every fight?
I'm not into that.
Well, yeah, I'm not super into it, but it's
I don't mind people who are. You just have something wrong with you.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
I'm fully resigned to accept that. So yeah, there's some the House of Cards show, which I assume will fall out of this ranking
pretty quickly.
Very quickly. They canceled the show.
I know.
There's going to be no more of it.
Oh, they're not even going to try to kill him off or put somebody else in there. They're just going to leave it.
It's just done. Well, I think they should issue a press release or something, being like, "Here's what would have happened," so you guys can quit bugging us about it.
I watched that show. That was one where when it would release, I was really excited about watching.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the first couple.
That's another
seasons.
early on show I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I did too. But the guy's a greaseball.
Well, they made him he never won an election and he's president.
Yeah.
I think that's a little far fetched.
Well, Ford was president, didn't win an election.
Well, I mean. So everything that show is taking, they're taking the greatest outlier of that specific moment and being like, it could happen.
Yeah.
Which it makes for
it's not
sensational TV.
Yeah, it's not a documentary.
No, not at all. It's enjoyable. I don't want to be the guy that's like...
you better view your scan details.
Well, I got a free McAfee setup when I bought this machine.
Woo!
For life, I think.
You got to know how to turn that stuff off. I'll tell you about how to do that. Back in my old QVC days.
Nice.
Okay, so
the next show on the list is Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
And I understand you have an opinion on this.
I have a big opinion on this.
Don't get yourself in trouble, though.
Yeah, okay. In my opinion,
okay.
Which is probably right, It's entirely overrated. It was like this biggest show ever, and everybody wanted to watch it. My wife and I watched it, and man, about like 7 or 8 episodes in, I kept asking, hey, I don't get this. This just isn't good to me. And I kept hearing from people, it gets better in the second half of the season. Right. Like, okay, well, it didn't really. I keep expecting this big thing. Didn't happen. Second season, and we're behind. It actually, like, season 2 is kind of slow, but season 3, like, really picks up. I kept waiting for this to pick up.
Right.
And it went from being this formula every episode. If you've seen the first couple of seasons, every episode is the same. Like, it has the exact same formula with a backstory and the real-time story, and it never really, like, moves anywhere.
Right.
And it just got so
Well, they're all in jail, right?
They're all in jail, yeah.
Does anyone ever get out?
Yeah.
Okay, I've never seen this one, so I'm not going to be a bad...
Well, and then it just gets, like, ridiculous.
Right.
Anyway.
They jumped the shark?
Yeah.
How many seasons we got now?
I think there's, like, 6.
Yeah, it's tough not to jump the shark by
I get it.
4, right?
That's why I liked Office Space. I'm sorry, The Office.
Okay.
The original BBC Office with Ricky Gervais.
2
seasons.
Yep.
And at the end of it, he's like, I don't have any more. I did all the shtick I can do on this.
Right.
Now, the American Office was still really good.
Yeah. I'd say that show was good for 5 seasons.
They did it for a long time, but they filmed a lot more seasons than 5.
Yeah, they did 9 all in.
Yeah. So there's something to be said for, like, getting out when it's time to get out. Seinfeld, 9 seasons, he's like, this is, I think before we ruin it, time to get out.
Yeah, but, like, so there is some sort of breaking point where, like, a show gets popular, and then it can command so many dollars through all the avenues that it commands dollars. And then, say it takes 3 seasons to even get to that point.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking, okay, if we can do 3 more seasons, like, we can cash in on that high rate for however long we can.
I get it.
So, I mean, I'd like shows to quit when they know that they're going to stop being good.
But that's selfish of us to say that.
There's no way on earth that'll happen.
No. It's the same argument where people are like, Michael Jordan shouldn't have come back. He should have left after that shot against the Jazz. Well, he has the opportunity to earn $35 million a year, and however rich he is, he can earn $35 million more by coming back and sell more shoes and get more commercials. Like, you can't expect him to care about you care about this nostalgia of his last shot like I do.
I also think this is something that people overlook when they're having these conversations because, like, 3 examples come to mind. Brett Favre, Michael Jordan, Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
All kind of outlasted their, prime time.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning, won the Super Bowl on his last run, but you could see that he was notably deteriorated from what he used to be. But if you're going to be one of those guys that reaches the legendary status of athlete, you have a completely different DNA than normal people. The thing that made you get that good with, obviously you've got the athletic things, but and maybe Jordan had more intangibles that were just kind of built in than those other 2 guys.
Yeah.
But other than Favre had amazing, like, arm strength, which is, if you ever looked at the science behind, like, what makes a pitcher throw hard?
No.
It's just like genetically strong tendons, alignment in the shoulder,
and this ability to, like, just whip.
Yeah, it's like your arm is like a
slingshot,
trebuchet,
like an
almost,
slingshot. Yeah.
Which is pretty insane. But there's a million guys that have all those intangibles, but these guys have, like, a freakish mentality that drives them to go be high achievers. And so you think that guy just all of a sudden gets tired of that by the time he turns 37, and we as the consumer say, well, I really liked the moment when you hit the shot against Byron Russell.
It fits better into my...
I would like you to be done now.
Yeah.
No, that guy's a freak. He's going to continue to be a freak however he can.
Yeah, and he's going to continue to earn, like, that's his earning potential.
Yes.
He'll never earn as much money outside of Michael Jordan, who's figured out a great business outside of it. Shaquille O'Neal, Patrick Ewing. Shaq played for, after the Lakers, went to the Heat, went to the Suns, went to the Cavaliers, went to the Celtics. Like, that guy, he cashed as many checks as he could. I don't blame him.
Yeah, and
he's
I would
not
too.
earning that much on Inside the NBA.
Well, he's the #1 endorser of random products. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, Icy Hot and
Well, like thegeneral.com. and
yeah,
stuff like
that's
that.
right.
He's like the most prolific endorser of
Yeah.
things, and he's worth a ton of money for it. That's off the topic of TV shows. So these other ones we won't spend a lot of time on, but we'll just rattle them off.
Sure.
Is 13 Reasons Why.
And by the way, this is number 8.
This is
So we went
8.
Stranger Things, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, Mindhunter, The Flash, House of Cards, Orange is the New Black,
Right.
13 Reasons Why.
Big Bang, American Pickers, Breaking Bad, Friends, and Family Guy.
I was surprised to see American Pickers that high, like a History Channel. That's on History Channel, right?
Yeah. So
I watch it from time to time if I catch it, but it's not appointment viewing, you know? It's like Sunday at 2.
Well, so there's a dynamic to American Pickers that has kept me up late at night several times, is that these guys genuinely enjoy their job.
Yeah.
They are just really happy to be doing this.
Yeah, that's true.
And it kind of makes you feel like you're along for the ride, and you're like, oh, I never seen that, and there's an educational aspect.
Yeah, it's like a more enjoyable Antiques Roadshow.
Much more enjoyable.
But it's the same sort of idea. I had Happy City one time. I flipped it on. That's what channel it was on. And I sat there for like 45 minutes watching it because it was this cool educational thing. And some people bought something from some pawn shop and they paid $800 for it and they think it's a lot of money. And they're like, this is worth about $30. It's a replica. And they're like, oh, God. And then other people brought this doll in. I saw this lady. She had this doll. Her grandmother wouldn't let her play with it when she was a kid. And the woman's like, this is one of the best preserved whatever kind of doll from Switzerland I've ever seen. It's probably worth $8,000. And this woman like breaks down crying.
Right.
Anyway, that was a cool show.
Yeah, I like the shows where they give you a little knowledge that maybe you wouldn't run across every day. Or like, I can't just
like
go
our
out,
podcast.
I can't just go out on the internet and dial that up in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Be like, I'd never come across the doll. Anyways, I'll wrap up the TV section here by saying Breaking Bad, Friends, and Family Guy are old shows, but they're still on the top of the watch list.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and so there's a site where it lists what the top Netflix show is in each country.
Ah.
And Breaking Bad, Friends, and Family Guy are all over that list worldwide.
Not just the U.S.
Yeah, worldwide.
Interesting.
So if you have a minute, you might want to check that out.
Breaking Bad, phenomenal show. I know everybody knows that. But,
yeah, that's a great show.
I loved it. It was great.
When's the spinoff for that coming?
It's already come. It's called Better Call Saul. Yeah, they've already done 2 seasons.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good show.
I haven't. I was into season 1. I haven't watched at all any of season 2. You know what is another great show that I haven't watched in a while, but I watched the first 2 seasons, is Last Man on Earth with Will Forte from Saturday Night Live.
I've not seen that.
Oh God, it was on Fox. It was so funny.
Really?
A kind of strange humor, but it had some really, really funny moments. That guy is.
He's a riot.
He's a riot. He's an odd bird. Did you ever see MacGruber, the movie?
I know Michael Scott says it at one point.
Yeah, it's pretty good too.
Okay,
stupid but funny.
So that's up for our TV topic. Do you have any final points on that?
No, we beat it to death.
I'd tell you that if you haven't, check out the Seinfeld series because that's a phenomenal one.
Well, yeah, that sort of goes without saying.
And then that's not like a comedy standard, but there's another one that falls on par with the World War II in color. It's the new Ken Burns PBS documentary.
Oh, I haven't gotten to watch that about Vietnam.
Yeah, I bought it on Amazon a few weeks ago, and I haven't got a chance to start it yet, but I'm gonna fire that up. I've heard really good things.
Yeah, I've heard great things about that.
So check that out. Our next topic is a little touchier, which is everyone is constantly offended by everything. And so I wanted to talk about what is it that is making everyone so offended now, and what do you do to either is it well-founded? Do they have a reason to be offended by everything? Or is this just a pendulum swing in the...
That's what I think about. Are we in this? Is this an evolving attitude of opinion and divisiveness,
Right.
or is it, to your point, does it go back and forth?
Can we ever come back from
Right.
because it's kind of unenjoyable.
It is unenjoyable. But maybe, like, I think about, not to use an extreme example, but the Civil War, we completely divided our country. Like, you want to talk division, that was freaking division. You had neighbors, killing each other,
If
right?
they lived in Tennessee.
Right. Or even families that were split. Some
Right.
families that had moved north and didn't believe in slavery, and some that stayed south that did, and they fought one another, and didn't talk to one another. And, like, that's real division, to the point that, one invaded the other. And it took a long, long time, but, there were times of, I guess, normalcy, back to unity.
Another example I'd say is like the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Where it's like everyone came here from one place, and then it has been a long enough time, and now these people don't want to associate with them anymore. But like, you got to assume that like part of your family went to the colonies, or stayed back, or have gone back and forth.
And everyone that was here in that pre-revolutionary time, they were not all in favor of revolution and overthrowing the government that was here. I mean, a lot of them wanted to stay as part of the British crown.
Yeah.
So you had that then too.
Yeah, and so kind of flip out here is Brexit. What if England decided it wanted to be the 51st state?
Whoa!
Wouldn't that be like the unrevolutionary?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I like it.
I don't think they want to. I'm pretty sure they didn't get out from the euro to come live under Trump.
Yeah, we'll give it time.
Yeah, give it time. Yeah, we'll see who's next.
Mm-hmm. There was a quote. So like 3 years ago, I went through tremendous efforts to become like a guy that is well read. It was a lot of effort. Are there like 50 some books in a year? It was, and I'll try to live in the classics, right? So that someone could say, you remember, it's a reference to For Whom the Bell Tolls or something.
Yeah.
And I would be like, oh yeah, I know that. Like, kind of feel like you know some stuff.
Sure.
And I read all the books, and they weren't very good.
No.
Like I read.
They're just hard to read.
Yeah.
I read some Hemingway, and it's, like, I feel better that I read it, but I wasn't like, ooh,
this is phenomenal.
This is great.
This is the all-time classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't love them all. I read Kerouac. Everyone loves Kerouac, and I was like, it's okay.
What about Capote? Did you read In Cold Blood?
No.
That's a classic, but it's written in a very different style. Like long run-on type sentences, and
kind of like how he talks.
Lack of punctuation. Yeah. So it's like that.
Yeah, I never read that one. But this brings me to one of the books I read was The Brothers Karamazov. Mm-hmm. You ever read that?
No.
Like, even if you asked me right now, I'd have trouble describing the plot and resolution of this book. But there was a excerpt from it that talks about people want to be offended because it feels good to be offended. And the famous quote that comes from it is, turning a molehill into a mountain.
Yeah.
So, like, there are these tiny offenses, or what our current a term you'd hear a lot would be like microaggression. Mm-hmm. And then saying a microaggression is an actual aggression, in my brain, equates to molehill, mountain.
Yeah.
And so, it kind of bums me out that everyone is so touchy right now, because if you decide that those two things are the same, the mountain and the molehill, then it's really worth getting fired up about just about everything.
Yeah, everything falls into an aggressive and an offensive category. If everything that's small is offensive. Yeah.
Right. And so I don't, and this is why I asked, like, can it get better? Because if we decide, and we're like even redefining words so that we don't be offensive.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking, okay, so why people are getting offended? So there must be some reason this happens, and it's because I think almost everything comes with an agenda behind it. So, like, there's the point of the arrow, and then all the wood that comes behind the arrow, which gives the point any force, right? So they always say, like, the wood behind Arrowhead.
It's a great metaphor.
Which, it's a good one. But like, even like thinking about, like right now there's all kinds of debate about a tax plan.
Yeah.
And, people take political sides on this is going to benefit these people and not these people. And then you can talk to someone else and they'll say just the opposite. And so what do we do with that?
Well, we're not getting into a political debate.
No, we're not going to go there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, people are offended. It's hard to delineate between, like, should I be worried about this? Or, like, should I just let this roll?
Let me err on the side of being worried about it. Yeah. I don't know. I sure hope it gets better. I mean, I think there are pockets of, you and I disagree on a lot of really important stuff.
A lot of stuff, yeah.
And here we are sitting, side by side, and, there's plenty of room to have conversation, even when you are miles apart.
Yeah.
But we just need to do that more.
And so we, I think as people get older, like when you're younger, they put you in groups and you're just in the group. Like you think of your class at school or like your little kid's soccer team.
Yeah.
And you have no choice but to be with people, and obviously your brains aren't fully developed and you don't have all the right opinions or whatever. But as you get older, you can kind of segregate yourselves into it. Maybe that's not the right word, but you can kind of separate yourselves into like pockets of people that you believe the same thing as, which is like kind of a tribal mentality.
I also think it's kind of the megaphone versus the... Okay, you ever have a customer that sends you an email and they're super pissed off and they're, really inflammatory, and you call them and it totally smooths it over? Like that one-to-one interaction takes away the ability for everybody to be fake tough.
Right.
Nowadays, we have so many outlets with Twitter and Facebook and message boards.
Define fake tough real quick for...
So fake tough meaning, I'm not going to put up with this crap. I can't believe
I'm going to send a strongly worded email.
That's right. On an email, on a keyboard, everybody's super tough.
Everyone is Mike Tyson.
That's right. Yeah. But when you sit down and talk with people, nobody really acts like that one-on-one. I mean, obviously people do from time to time. But for the most part, it's that one-to-one conversation, sit down, look at somebody, talk to them, where it's really hard to be completely divisive. It's my way or the highway. Like, it's almost impossible to not come to some common ground. But we don't really seek that out anymore. We would rather tweet and speak from a podium and
then sit in my group of the people that already agree with me. So what my thought is on this is that it's totally fine for me to know and associate and enjoy people that think very differently on some different, on semi-important things, because you don't have to agree with me. I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah.
But I also, to have a counterparty in this kind of better setup would be for that other person to not be upset with how I feel about something.
Right.
Or what I think about something.
Yeah, what you believe.
Right. So, like, how do you, well, I guess we're not going to figure it out right now, but, like, what would you say would be, like, the first steps to getting closer to something like that? Because, like I said, it's uncomfortable right now.
I think I really believe it's a face-to-face, or at least a one-to-one conversation,
So, doesn't everything in the world right now push us away from a one-to-one conversation?
Yes, but that's the part of the problem, is we have these message boards and this anonymous...
so you do agree now that Twitter is overrated? That's
what
this was all about.
It's it's that cyber bullying. I mean, it's a lot harder to bully someone one-to-one. I mean, we got there are bullies in our schools, and but it's a lot harder to do one-to-one than it is behind a keyboard. Yeah. So I mean, I know we're not going to get people to sit down and talk all the time, but like you and I sit and have a beer at a bar and we talk about gun control and we disagree, but I'm not sitting there, screaming at you and telling you you're wrong and you're an idiot, and you're not telling me I'm an idiot, and you know what I mean? We just, hey, okay, I understand why you believe what you believe. You understand why I believe what I believe. We don't have to agree.
And that's just going to have to be fine.
That's just going to have to be fine.
Right. So
I'll change your mind eventually.
I don't know. I don't know. But hey.
Anyway.
I think the other thing is that we're in an environment where or not an environment. It sounds way too scientific. We're just sitting around in a time where there are so many competing outlets for your eyeballs and your click finger.
Yeah.
So people will say the most shocking thing they can say to get people upset, to turn the radio to that station and leave it there.
Sure.
Because I want you to come to my station and I want you to listen to all my advertisers.
Even if you don't agree with me, I'm fine with that because you're listening and you're getting mad and
I
you
want you
call
to get
in.
mad and get engaged.
Yeah, it's the shock jock model. It's what has propelled Howard Stern and Colin Cowherd today, on sports radio. I mean, it's these guys who just have a really bombastic opinion because it elicits a reaction from somebody.
Right, and so I look at that and I look at, I haven't seen much of Stern, but I have seen some of Cowherd.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know Colin Cowherd, he was fired from ESPN for I think it was like a racial type of...
I don't know about that. I think he may have just gotten a different deal at Fox.
No, he said something about one of the Olympic baseball teams being less educated than another one.
Ah, interesting.
And so, he's gone. But then he went over to Fox News, or Fox, not Fox News,
Sports.
Fox Sports, and he has a show wherein he sits in this, like, king-like structure, and he has the microphone, like, right over his face, and he says just insane things, and then some of them is good, to be honest.
I mean, it's the only sports radio on it at certain times, so.
Right.
But nobody, like if I had a radio show and I were being myself, I would say, yeah, I can see your point there. Yeah, I actually can see both sides. I can agree with that. Nobody tune into that. Nobody wants to hear somebody who's rational and has an open mind about stuff.
Right.
You want to get your dander up.
You want to just be entertained. And so there's sometimes when they're doing that stuff and I'm like, well, whatever, it's fine. They're just trying to get people to listen. And sometimes it's like, it does bother me because I'm like, you're firing up all these people for no reason other than to enrich yourself.
Yeah, you're right.
So, so that's how one of the things I feel about being offended. And the last thing I have on my list, and you can feel free to add on, is people, I feel like, get offended for the reason that they want to show everyone else that they're virtuous, virtue signaling, right? So I would say...
Explain that.
Okay, so if you crash your car and you're outside and you are at an intersection and then you hop out and you get engaged in this fight, or there's not fight, it's an interaction between two cars crashing.
Yeah.
People get out there talking and then you take a side. And now you're on the side of someone, right or wrong or indifferent, and you're against the other person. So you have created an ally and you've created an enemy in a situation that you're not even involved in. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, that's just an example I made up on the spot.
Yeah.
But, like, look around and watch people that are offended.
Yeah.
And then tell me that that's not kind of what's going on.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
No, I don't disagree. I mean, I like to irritate people from time to time, not just offend. I don't want to offend anybody, but
when you do it, it's like, there's good-hearted jabbing, and it's when that's enough, that's enough.
Here's a great party trick.
Right.
We have the holidays coming up. You're invariably going to be at someone else's house. If you're around someone's dog, repeatedly call that dog by the wrong gender.
Okay.
I do this all the time. It's one of my favorite things to do because people get super fired up. Like, what'll happen is, let's say they have a female dog. Oh, he is so cute. He's so obedient. How do you do that? Well, she went to obedience school, and but yeah, she's a great dog. Oh yeah, he looks like a dog that I used to have. And the second time they'll be like, she is a standard poodle. And then if you do it like a third time, they're like, hey, my dog is a girl. They get super annoying. Like, oh, I'm sorry. He just looks like a male dog.
Yeah.
But people get fired up. So just use that in your own life at home. It's fun.
That's like one of those, Seinfeld always says, who's the victim here?
Yeah, it's a victimless
It's a victimless
It's a
crime.
joke, yeah.
Yeah, and so if the victim is, well, I shouldn't even say that because I was going to say if the victim is a dog
Yeah.
in an emotional attack, I think you're all right.
Yeah, I agree.
We have lifted the bar on being offended and not offended, and we have taken one step in the right direction. Don't be offended for the emotional torment.
Hey, I said no offense. Can't
Yeah.
you just use that? We're going to dive into, in another episode, dogs in more detail. That's a tease, but I got a lot of thoughts on dogs.
Okay.
And people's relationship to dogs.
Right.
And how narcissistic it really is.
Well, if you want to get people offended, start telling them that their relationship with their dog isn't a good one.
No. That, in general, we have... Well, I'll save it for another time.
Okay. Perfect.
But yes, it's going to make some dog owners unhappy with me.
Well, this has been episode 2 of the Unconsumed podcast. Thank you for listening. Again, if you want to shoot us a topic or anything, it's at Lee Corning on Twitter. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you very much.
See you next time.
Done.
It's good.
That was good.
That's good.